What's up, Cardinal fans? Welcome. I'm at the Rusty Coles Fieldhouse. I'm with Coach Rivers. Good to be back with you, Coach. Coach, win number 10. How does it feel?
Yeah, awesome. Awesome to get to 10. I feel like we said that every week when we talked, but we said it obviously in our meetings with the guys, when we were sitting there with a chance to get to 10, and we said one at a time we can get there. And pretty awesome year thus far. Obviously we want to keep it going. But winning 10 games in a season is quite an accomplishment.
Absolutely. Out of all the 4A teams in the state, only four others can say they got the 10 wins this year. So, that's a huge accomplishment for St. Michael. One more point towards that 10-win season. There's only one team in all of Alabama that, has more than 10 wins and a better record than us. And yeah, it's West Morgan, who is 11-0. The win last week being our first ever playoff win and playoff home game, that win takes us to the Sweet 16 and the second round of the playoffs. We spoke last week about the competition level, once making the playoffs, but, in the playoffs, it's really about the team who catches fire. Do you have any team in your career that, just caught fire in the playoffs at the right time?
Well, obviously we never made it to the all the way to the big game, but there was a year actually when we struggled, 2008, and we were 4-8. We were 4-8 and pretty miserable, to be honest with you. I remember standing on the practice field with Norv, and we were 4-8. We just lost a Sunday game to the Falcons. We were getting ready to play the Raiders on a Thursday night, so it was a quick week, and we just dropped to 4-8. And he and I were standing there. Special teams was going on, and it was just it was like you're at a funeral out there. And he said, "Pretty rough, isn't it?" And I said, "Man, it's terrible." And we're 4-8, and we won the rest of them, and Denver lost the rest of them, and we got into playoffs and won a playoff game against the Colts at home. That was probably the best atmosphere that Qualcomm Stadium ever was. And then we ended up getting beat by the Steelers. But yeah, so again, even if it isn't going good, you never know. That's why you just keep, that's the Nuke Cheppy way, whether it's good or bad. So here we find ourselves, really on a hot streak since the Jackson game. We've been playing well and won some close games and had some big victories. But it's can you do it again the next week and keep piling on? But I'm with you. It's any given Friday night, right? For us last week it was Thursday. That's why they play. And you mentioned 16 teams left, and it's pretty cool, right? I mean, obviously in every classification there is, but 16 4A teams practice football this week. The rest of them are done. So excited to be part of that 16 and hoping to get to the final 8.
Absolutely. And, kind of talking back about the competition level, round two gets really hot. It starts to ramp things up, closer and closer to that state championship. And, you can't really change, what we're going to do at practice each week and what we're going to do. But what can be done to prepare for like the increase of talent as teams get stronger and stronger?
Well, I don't think you do anything different to practice week, and we didn't this week. There's some maybe finer details and from a game plan standpoint, maybe whether it's again with Rocco and some of those guys playing more defensive snaps. There is no next week, so there is no, hey, we want to make sure we have these guys for the long haul. This is the long haul. We're there.
Yeah.
But I think what prepares you for it to ramp up is the schedule we played. And that's what I think. I'm confident in the schedule we played has equipped us and prepared us for these kind of games, for the Pleasant Groves, for the Jacksons, for the Tallahasees, for the whoever it ends up being. Fairfield and WS Neal. I mean, our schedule has prepared us for that. It's tough a schedule in Region 1 with Jackson and Mobile Christian and throwing WS Neal getting hot like they did, and then you throw in the non-region schedule we played. Bayside's going to make a deep run in the 3A playoffs. UMS has won 14 first-round games in a row, and you go to Pensacola and play that tough team. So that's what's prepared us for a team like Pleasant Grove. And again, you still got to go out and play.
Absolutely.
But that's what gives us the confidence that especially after all that and throw in Jackson,
Yeah.
it can't get much tougher than that.
We're playing very, very well on both sides of the ball right now. The defense gets better and better, it seems like, each week. And, the offense has so many weapons, whether that be Brody, Tucker, Cooper Kurth, Noah, Brody Sella. Can you give us a little insight into the team's momentum right now after such a big win?
Yeah, well, I think you almost summarized it well right there. The defense has continued to improve. We went through that tough stretch, and it is what it is. There's no hiding from it. Jackson Mobile Christian back to back, and then you throw in Pensacola running the veer, and even last week against Hanley, we ended up giving up 40 points, but we played a heck of a lot better than that defensively. Other than the big plays we've given up, and then you mentioned offensively, I feel like we've probably been more balanced in the second half of the season than we were even early in the year, and balance can be misunderstood for how many runs or passes you called. But it's just being multiple and balanced, and you see it. The teams we've played the last few weeks, you've heard their coaches talk about the running game and the passing game. It's not just being one dimensional can get you in a bind when you get to the postseason. So,
Absolutely.
having that dual threat of run and pass has been a real real asset for us offensively.
Hanley had a very similar attack to us. Their quarterback played efficiently. They had a really good, solid running attack and a group of receivers with impressive numbers. Can you expand on the defense's performance against Hanley?
Yeah, they other than the big plays, I thought we really probably had one of our best games. But again, those big plays did happen, so you're not allowed to remove those from the game. But there's so many snaps where we played well. And there was a stretch there where I don't think they had a run over 8 yards, 6 to 8 yards. And again, we talk about it every week. That's our big thing: is do not eliminate big plays. Make them keep snapping it again. If it's four, even obviously we don't want to give up 4 yards a carry.
Yeah.
But if you're giving up that, and you make them snap it again. Teams get impatient. Teams get a holding penalty. Teams fumble. So that's been our biggest thing. But against Hanley, we did that well, except for the big play, the big run, the big kickoff return, the play before the half, and then one other big run. I mean, you're talking about 28 points right there. So, there was as crazy as it sounds, that game had the chance to be, 70-14.
Yeah.
It really did. And I say that with all respect, because I think Coach Strain does a heck of a job, and it's a well-coached team and a tough team and physical team.
Absolutely.
But we weren't that far from that being the case. So, again, one more point than the other team is all we're worried about. Certainly doesn't help our points given up per game on the stat sheet. But I thought it was a good defensive performance besides the big plays.
Absolutely. And just to list some defensive stats, Nick Russo had 11 tackles, and Ollie and Toby also had 7 tackles. Bryce Marston had 6 tackles, and then Braden Smith really stood out in that game, having 5 tackles with 2 interceptions. And then you also had Kamar J having an interception as well. And then, kind of speaking on the offensive side of the ball, 63 points is very, very impressive in a playoff game against a really solid Hanley team, as you said. Noah 6 touchdowns, 204 yards, 103 receiving yards, over 300 yards total. Can we talk about how special he is as a running back and a receiver?
Yeah, no, he's just steady, and having him for a full off season, a full summer, and into the season, he's ran it better and better each week, and I think he really is into the details and the technique of the plays. He's not just out there, just hand it to him and go where you want.
Yeah.
He makes some incredible runs because of his athletic ability, but he's very very detailed in terms of his course and his path and who he's reading on the cuts and things like that. So it just had an unbelievable year. We're going to need him to be big again this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And, still looking on the offensive side of the ball, it's kind of like we said earlier, there's too many weapons to defend us. It's kind of like picking your poison. They held Brody Jones to 1 touchdown and 52 yards, and that's normally a great game for a new receiver, but Brody has just been playing at such a high level, getting almost 100 yards every single game. And, Tucker also went wild for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. And zero, can you zero in on the wide receivers and running backs, kind of getting over 100 receiving yards kind of almost every single game. And can we talk about how special this offense is this year?
Yeah, no, it's been good. And the thing about last week, which was I took it as a positive, is we scored 63 points and we left some out there. We left some out there. It wasn't necessarily our best day offensively, but I say that. But then again, the level of difficulty, and I'm not just saying this to defend Gunner, but the level of difficulty in some of the throws we were having to make versus man coverage versus a lot of pressure, they weren't super high percentage. So it's one thing when you're dinking and dunking. These were all shots down the field, and he does usually make those throws. And we weren't off by 6 yards on some of these misses. We were off by 2 feet, a lot of times. So and that was the difference in Brody having 150 or Tucker having 160 or whatever. So it was a weird game because of the way they played us. I really couldn't believe it. I know that's what they'd shown on tape, but I really thought there's no way they were going to line up and play us man every single snap, and they did, and they ended up hurting them because of Noah out of the backfield on
Yeah,
two huge plays, for
absolutely.
almost 100 yards were Noah out of the backfield. So yeah, it was a different game to call because of what they were doing defensively, but one where we executed at a high level.
Yes, sir. With all that said, last week, let's take a look at this week, this Friday night. Our round two opponent is the one seed, Pleasant Grove. They ended the season with just one loss to a 6A team. I believe it was
McAdory.
Macador, yes. And the record would indicate they have some really good momentum. Not having a game within 20 points. How well are they playing right now?
They're playing good and they're really fast. I think they'll be the fastest team we've played. I think they're faster than Jackson. It's full team speed. I think they're faster. Are they as good as Jackson? I don't know. Right? That's why we play. Right, that's why we play the game. They would argue they probably are. And then we'll see. But they are really good. They're a little different than Jackson in terms of they're not quite. They're really physical, but they aren't as physically imposing as Jackson. But they do get after it. They do get after it, and they're fast. And this team has been in 5A, for the whole time. Really, this is their first year in 4A. They went to the state championship in 2019, went to the state championship in 2020, went to the state championship in 2021, went to the semifinals in 2022. This team is used to winning. This coach LeBeau there, who's been there 7 years, he's 75-15. So they win. I mean, this is a program that wins and knows how to win. And you mentioned that they hadn't had a close game since their only loss, first game of the year. So does that advantage us? I don't know. We've been in a bunch of close games, So again, that's going to be up to us to make it one of those games where it's tight in the second half, and maybe they haven't felt that before. But we got to come out ready to go because they have the capability of blowing the doors off in a hurry. Not just against us. I'm just going off their track record of what they've done against everybody.
With looking at Pleasant Grove season stats, they seem very familiar. 34 points a game, 204 passing yards a game, 175 rushing yards a game. Their QB is at 68% completion rate. 33 passing touchdowns on the year. Very very similar to us when looking at those numbers. Where's the difference between the two teams where you can attack on that offense?
Yeah, well, they are similar. I keep going back to their speed. That's the biggest thing that stands out when you watch them on film is they have the ability to catch a hitch and turn it into a 75-yard touchdown in no time. They've done it against everybody. So we're gonna have to handle their speed. We're gonna have 11 guys to the ball and keep the cup and keep closing the space. If they have a lot of space, they're tough to handle. And then defensively, they have some size and they have some dudes that can bring it, but they're fast again, fast, and we got to be able to handle their front, and we got to be able to run the football. Again, we can't just if they know it's pass, they pin their ears back and rush. If we're balanced, they're a little bit more play the run, which will allow us to have some time in the passing game to get open. And again, that's why you play, but they just hadn't played a team with a passing game like ours either. So again, they may say no, we haven't, but we still can defend it. We can't help who we've played, but we'll find out. That's why they had old coach say that's why they kick it off. They're gonna kick it off, so we'll find out.
As you said, Dale County, they ended up losing to, I believe, Fairfield. Does that mean we can get to host potentially another home playoff game?
Yeah, so we were looking at that today. I'm reading on the AHSAA deal. It seems to sound like it's only if teams have equal travel. So that's how they go back. So the way I see it is, first of all, let's just win, right? Let's get to the final
Absolutely.
8. But if Fairfield were to beat Neal, I think we would have to go to Fairfield because they would have been on the road the first 2 games, and we'd have just been once. If Neal beats Fairfield, we would host Neal here in the quarterfinals. So first, let's take care of it's going to be exciting to get just to be in the final 8 if we can find a way
Absolutely.
to win. But then if we were to find a way to win, I think we're all going to be WS Neal fans because then we get to host the quarterfinal game here, here out back. So, but yeah, anywhere we got to go. I think if you get to the quarterfinals, we'll go anywhere to play in that game. But we're going to have our work cut out for us to beat Pleasant Grove.
Yes, sir. Congratulations again on 10 wins, Coach. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Mitchell Swanson and Coach Rivers from the Rusty Coles Fieldhouse. St. Michael, defend us.